Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. How did you decide to live wherever you live now? Did you move for a job, for a partner? Did you visit one day and think, hey, you know what? It's pretty nice here. There are so many forks in the road that lead us to wherever we are now, and it's just up to us to turn the places we land into home, which is something author Emily Hunt Kivel talks about in today's interview. Her debut novel, Dwelling, is about a woman who gets kicked out of New York City and has to live in a boot in Texas. Yes, a boot. The book is something of a blend between fairy tale and magical realism, and Kivel talks to NPR's Adrian about building a world where the most wondrous things are left unexplained. That's ahead.
This message comes from FX's Alien Earth. From creator Noah Hawley and executive producer Ridley Scott comes the first television series inspired by the legendary Alien film franchise. A spaceship crash lands on Earth, bringing 5 unique and deadly species, more terrifying than anyone could have ever imagined. And a technological advancement marks a new dawn in the race for immortality. FX's Alien Earth. All new Tuesdays on FX and Hulu. This message comes from Leaf Filter. It's summer, and your rain gutters might be quietly filling with debris. Summer often brings heavy rainfalls. If your gutters are clogged, water can overflow and lead to costly damage. Protect your home now with Leaf Filter. Schedule your free inspection and get up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/NPR. That's LEAF filter.com/NPR. See representative for warranty details.
New York City is thrown into chaos at the start of a new novel, Dwelling. The mayor has decided to turn all the city's available rental housing into glorified Airbnbs. And because of this mass eviction, the city's renters soon find all their stuff piled up on the sidewalks like garbage. And that is where Eevee Carvalo finds herself, on the sidewalk, sitting on a random couch with a cook who is, well, not a cook anymore because they're unemployed and homeless. Both of them are trying to figure out where to go from here when the cook says,
I guess I also have a niece with a duplex in Wisconsin, and my aunt has a ranch in Texas near Gulluck. Gulluck. The name lodged in Evie's mind like a funny piece of glass. She said goodbye to the man, though he was already lost within himself, and walked towards the bridge that would take her to the city center. She stepped over a baking sheet and shower caddy that lay prostrate across the sidewalk. She turned down the street that ran parallel to the water's edge and stopped to sit staring at the skyline. She shared a bench with a rat eating out of a shoe full of wet Cheerios.
Both of Evie's parents are dead. Her sister is in a mental institution. But Gulluck, turns out Evie has a distant cousin there. And wouldn't you know it, the cousin is a realtor. This is the beginning of Emily Hunt Kivel's debut novel, Dwelling. And from there, Evie seeks shelter in the mysterious yet whimsical town of Gulluck, starting over as a young woman who lives in a shoe.
It's essentially the only rental property that Evie can afford, basically because it's a novelty property that looks like a giant cowboy boot that's, just rising into the sky. It was formerly a dance hall, and then it was a shoemaking studio, and now it's kind of just been sitting vacant for years. And, now it's going to be Evie's residence.
I couldn't help but wonder at this point, are you like a fan of fairy tales?
Yeah, I am a big fan of folk tales and fairy tales. And I also think that for whatever reason, as I was kind of conceiving of the book and of this image I had of an old woman living in a shoe, I started becoming interested in that image, and I started becoming kind of amused by doing a thought exercise. Oh, why is this woman in the shoe? What brought her there? And kind of reverse engineering how she got there. So I ended up with this idea that, she has to be there. Even in the old nursery rhyme, there's this element of, she's kind of addled children. There's some economic implications even to the nursery rhyme. And of course, that's in Dwelling, but I also think that when Evie moves into the shoe, it's actually kind of a turning point for the better in her life. And so there was actually some kind of catharsis in writing the book as it is.
You have a lot of comedy in the book as well. Like, you have a running gag where all these people start coming up to Evie's boot house and asking for, cobbler services. And then Evie eventually decides, well, maybe I'll start making shoes. You also have a running gag about buffets. What is it about buffets that you find so hilarious?
Oh gosh. Because they're physically quite awkward. You're watching people take these gigantic spoons and slop, pounds of some random dish onto their plates one by one. And so I loved the idea that we're seeing all these like esteemed people at this event, and yet they're at a buffet. And so there's this kind of unpolished quality that I wanted to always be in the novel, always be there to remind us that these people are human.
Not to give away any plot points, but there are some secret societies, there are magical keys, magic shoes, and you don't do a lot of explaining in the story about all of these things. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you come up with them? Do you have some sort of like internal logic that you're following?
I was interested in allowing a book to have mystery that goes unsolved, not necessarily like, cliffhangers or anything like that, but really allowing certain facets of this world to just be and exist. And I think in a world where we're so encouraged and so compelled to explain everything and solve everything immediately, there was something very liberating in creating a world that had mysteries that go unexplained, that people accept as mysteries.
I read a description of your book that described it as a fairy tale of late stage capitalism. I don't think I've ever just seen any book described as that. So I'm curious, like, is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think that, fairy tales and folk tales always reflect the anxieties of their day. And so in that way, this certainly is a fairy tale of late stage capitalism. It's a quest of one woman who's been made to feel valueless in her society, right? She has this kind of very removed work life. She has a living situation that she has no control over. And that becomes quite plain when she is, in fact, kicked out of the city that she lives in and was born in, because it would actually be more efficient if a tourist came and replaced her. And that's an anxiety, obviously an extreme version of it, but an anxiety that we do all feel to some degree right now. And so I think with Evie, there's an adventure that stems from a very deep collective anxiety that we're all experiencing. And I do believe that within that is a folktale.
And so how much of this story is aspirational for you? I mean, you live where this story takes place in Texas, right? I mean,
I do.
I don't know if you live in Gulluck, but you do live in Texas, right?
I wish I lived in Gulluck. Yeah, maybe aspirational. I think that Evie's story is one of this kind of radical acceptance that I think is very difficult to achieve. And I came to Texas not because I had any plans to or even wanted to.
From New York, right?
Yes, yes, exactly, from New York. And I came here, kind of similarly. I didn't have any plans to, and I didn't particularly want to. And yet, when I arrived, there was something expansive that happened to me and happened to my life, and especially that happened to my creativity. And so it was unexpected. It wasn't even my first choice, but there was this generosity of spirit and this kind of creative, imaginative world that opened up for me. And so I do think that there is a parallel, at least, between my own experience in making this move and Evie's.
Without giving the plot away, I want to ask you about Evie's shoes. At some point in the story, she comes across some very special shoes that help her get where she needs to go. I wonder if I could ask you to imagine if you had a pair of these special shoes that could take you where you needed to go. Where would you go?
That's a great question. I think I would probably go somewhere where community is really, really easy to form. And I think on some level, I have that here, which has been beautiful. But I do think that since writing the book, what I've really seen is that community is one of the only ways to resist this kind of alienation that society is foisting upon us. And so I think that places that are overwhelmingly expensive and exploitative to their residents make it very difficult for those communities to form. Not impossible, but difficult. And so I think for me, I'm always looking for places that allow for this kind of connection.
We've been speaking with Emily Hunt Kivel. Her new novel is Dwelling. Emily, thanks so much for speaking with us about it.
Thank you.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Rosetta Stone, the perfect app to achieve your language learning goals no matter how busy your schedule gets. It's designed to maximize study time with immersive 10-minute lessons and audio practice for your commute. Plus, tailor your learning plan for specific objectives like travel. Get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off and unlimited access to 25 language courses. Learn more at rosettastone.com/NPR. This message comes from Mint Mobile. If you're tired of spending hundreds on big wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks, Mint Mobile might be right for you with plans starting from $15 a month. Shop plans today at mintmobile.com/switch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. This message comes from Squarespace, offering a library of professionally designed website templates. Grow your business with a customizable website. Visit squarespace.com/NPR for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.